Well, thank you all for being here today, and I want to thank the organizers especially for effectively evacuating me from Lower Manhattan, where I live. This is it's a wonderful place to ride out the storm, and in our household we practice women's rights every day. I've left my husband with 3 kids under 10 and some flashlights and water. So I want to thank you all for coming out today to hear a little bit more about this book. The book really is a very personal project for me. I've worked at Human Rights Watch for 15 years, and in that time we have seen great advances, great strides forward for women's rights around the world. For example, on domestic violence legislation, on women entering the workforce, advances for girls in education. But in other parts of the world, I think we have to concede that women are losing ground, that rights for girls are not being upheld. The Unfinished Revolution tells the story of the ongoing global struggle on many fronts to secure basic rights for women and girls around the world, including in the Middle East, where the Arab Spring has raised high hopes, but where it's already clear that these political revolutions alone will not be enough to secure rights for women, and might even lead to the weakening of key rights protections. At this time of global unrest and change, how women fare is a key test of other human rights and freedoms, which makes it all the more important that women have a seat at the table when decisions impacting their lives are made.
This is something, ashamed of as an American. In 1979, CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, was passed in the UN, and at the time, President Carter supported it, but wasn't able to get it passed in the US. In 1992, it was expanded to state that gender-based violence is a fundamental violation of human rights, and governments are obligated to take action. Again, the United States did not ratify that. So the U.S. is in the company of, at this point, Iran, Sudan, Somalia, and a few other countries, and being the only UN member states that haven't signed this, mostly because the Senate won't allow it to come to a vote. Can you talk about if you think it's ever going to happen in the U.S. and how you think that makes the U.S. Look to the rest of the world, our legitimacy in this, trying to push for human rights?
Well, thank you. That is a sore topic, if you could say, for the United States, because U.S. leaders are really in the company here of Ahmadinejad, who has actually sworn that Iran will never pass CEDAW because it will harm the interests of the country. And just a little bit about what CEDAW is. It's the Convention to Eliminate All Forms of Discrimination Against Women and Girls. And as such, it's not a high. This is not the maximum rights that can be enforced. This is the baseline. So these are the bare minimum of rights for women and girls. And I think that it's important to understand it at that level. This is not a luxury. These are the basic rights and freedoms that are also enshrined in the Universal Declaration. And the reason we have a separate convention on the rights of women is that clearly in 2012 we still have not, as this book demonstrates in the clearest possible way, around the world, women and girls are not able to exercise the rights that they are guaranteed in the Universal Declaration. We shouldn't need separate legislation, but clearly we do. The international dimension of this is that Canada, the US, the UK, Europe, and other countries do have an important role to play politically at a critical transitional moment. So we were talking in advance about the if we miss this moment, for example, for the political transitions in Tunisia or in Egypt, if you back burner women's rights and you say, well, it's not strategic to talk about women's rights at this juncture, why don't we just, put that whole child marriage thing to the side. Well, by the time you take it up again, it's going to be legislation, and it will be too late. So, I think on the one hand, we need to make sure that every country is honoring its laws and upholding them and protecting women's rights. We also need to make sure that the governments who have influence are using it at this critical moment. And by influence, I mean funders. I mean, Canada is a major funder around the world, and is therefore in a unique position to advance rights at this moment. But if you decide that it's not, if the government decides that it's not strategic, let me assure you the moment will never come when it's strategic to take up women's rights.